Welcome to Bloom Today. We have an edgy show for you. We're going to be talking about getting your fix.
Hi, I'm Paula Wallace, president of Bloom in the Dark, and this is
Ginny Priz, the single-handed serenity coach. Welcome to Bloom Today, where we talk about internal and external brokenness and how you can heal,
so that you can use the fertilizer of your past to bloom today. Hey everybody, welcome today where we're talking about getting your fix. Big question is, what kind of fix we're talking about?
Get it? Well, we all need something, right?
We do, and it's funny how that fix can be different for everybody. I think a lot of people associate that with fixing cars, right?
I don't think so, no. I think that... Nice, but no.
Oh.
Wow, that's an interesting one. I think it's more about chemicals usually when we talk about getting your fix.
Talking about like your t-shirt.
Yeah. Oh, my t-shirt. So my t-shirt says retired blackout artist, sober life.
So that's talking about if alcohol was a fix.
Yeah. Alcohol was a big fix in my life for many, many years. Oops. There were some other chemicals that went along with that.
Yes.
Too, sometimes.
So what went with the alcohol?
Well, there were cigarettes, of course, in there, because those two things seem to go hand in hand. But I did spend quite a bit of time in college smoking pot. And that's not something that I'm super proud of these days. But at the time, it was the one thing that I could find to numb out all of the crazy swirling of thoughts and emotions that never seem to go away.
At least it's legal now in some states.
At least it's legal now in some states. Is that something of a redemption?
No, it just,
Yeah, I mean, never a bad idea. I don't recommend it at all, but I was searching, I was desperate for something that could help me to feel better. And I was also desperate to, at first, mostly earn the respect of my peers, the people that I thought wanted to spend time with me and love me and all of this. So I did what they were doing. And sure, why not? I mean, you start out trying, let's do some experimentation, and then you continue into, okay, well, this is what everybody's doing, so I'll just relax and go with it, to, oh my gosh, if I need something. I need something because I can't handle what's going on in my life right in front of me right now. I need this. This is the only way I can relax. And I stopped using any of the other coping skills that I had. I just needed to get it.
Yeah, so I have no understanding or experience to even relate to what you're talking about.
Sorry, honey. But that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. I'm glad you didn't have to go through that. But what did you go through?
I was going to say, I had a different fix. I grew up in a Christian cult, and so self-righteousness was a really good fix. Like, it was about doing it right and not making mistakes and succeeding and being a best at. So perfectionism and performance and people-pleasing, and that's where your safety was, that's where your value was, that was what was important. And it's so funny when you have fear of judgment as the basis for how you have a relationship with God, where it's less about who He is and who the relationship is, and it's a lot more about what other people think, what they think at church, what they think, what your family thinks, your parents, what is going to be approved by society.
All that appearance.
Absolutely. And that is still a fix, by the way. And if I had addictions, they were appropriate, proper addictions, like reading books.
Sorry that my addictions aren't as appropriate as yours. What can I say? I did what was appropriate in the time period, in the setting that I was in. Right, exactly.
Which just says it has nothing to do with what it is. We tend to choose whatever is either the most accessible or going to feel the best under the circumstances. And the fact is, none of it's good, none of it's healthy. And
That's right.
we're wanting to talk more about the fix that actually fixes things.
Oh,
so
the fix that actually fixes things.
Yeah,
like
it feels
like
good
the real
and
fix, like the permanent fix.
Yeah, the fix that makes you healthy and whole, so that you don't need a fix to cope.
Right.
How about that?
Worldly fix.
Yeah.
Shall we say? Yeah.
Or a religious fix, for that matter.
Or a religious fix, right? I mean, even when I was, I had come out of college and I was relying on alcohol for the most part because, again, you can only do illegal for so long.
Right.
But I and coming out of that culture, was another thing. So alcohol kind of became the crutch that I relied on. And even during that time while I was drinking, I was a Christian. I mean, I came back to Christ, and it was all, I love Jesus, he loves me, I'm so happy, this is exciting, and
I just need a little alcohol.
I still needed the alcohol to get through. I didn't know how to translate it, and a lot of times the relationship was there, but it was had gone from a place in my head. It was trying to get into my heart, and I still had to go through that transition of. Unfortunately, my transition was a little bit jarring.
Jail? I don't understand why you think jail is jarring.
Jail is jarring. What can I say? It does something to a person, a person's idea of themselves. But that was really where I had to continue to look to him specifically and build that relationship with him just to get me through the next day, through the next 5 minutes. Sometimes we just do the next right thing. God, just help me to get through the next 5 minutes. And through that was able to really start to come closer to the Lord and understand him and his character,
right,
and who he was working with me on a daily basis, not just on Sunday or at night when I'm saying my prayers,
right, but all day long. And for me, it was hitting rock bottom where the facade, the religious facade, the appearance that I had, where it all crumbled and fell apart. It was no longer going to keep me. I was done. I was completely done. And that's where I had to reach to start understanding the level at which, because I had a relationship with God the whole time.
Right.
But it was not the relationship where I was coming to him with my brokenness, where I was coming to him in a really deep way with the devastation and the abuse and the pain. And so Jeremiah 29:13, where it says, and you will seek me and find me when you search for me with your whole heart. And when my facade broke down, I was suddenly so desperate that I was seeking God with my whole heart. No reservations, no hidden places, no trying to pretend anything. It was all or nothing at that point.
I think being in a desperate place is actually in some
place?
ways is the best place to be, because when you are desperate and crying out for God, that's when you really get to know him. That's when you really start to build that relationship with him with your whole heart, not just a facade or this, that. It changes everything if you can get that it is everything. That's the center of it all.
And that's where we know that everybody can have a healthy relationship with God.
Absolutely.
But it takes changing things. Change TV. Wait a second. That's a whole different show. We might talk about that in a minute. But you have to do things like asking God to make himself real to you. In my space, I needed him not to just be a theoretical God who judged or who forced people to go to church or who wanted you to read a boring book called the Bible. Like I had this perspective of just being jaded to religion. And I needed to start calling on him personally, directly in the depths of my heart.
Right. And it can feel like, I know when I was in that hopeless place feeling a whole lot of shame that he would never come close to me. But the Bible says you have not because you ask not. So I needed to ask him to come in. And I needed to ask him, would you please? And oh my goodness, guess what? When you seek
him.
And he definitely comes and he will find you.
Yeah, he says in Jeremiah 33:3, call to me and I will answer you and show you great and mighty things which you don't know. And that's the whole problem when we're not seeking him, is we don't know what we're missing out on.
Right.
And aren't you happier now?
Oh my gosh. There are so many more things that I know now. As far as my worldview has completely changed. My coping mechanisms have changed. How I deal with and breathe on a regular basis has changed. I mean, it really has been even to something of like a molecular level, because my whole body has chemically changed over the years. Absolutely.
And we talk about being honest with him about the brokenness and hurt. So it's not just asking him to make himself real to us. It's starting to be real and honest with who we are on the inside, the ugly, messy,
that relationship
painful.
Goes two ways, and so we can bring all of that to him. We're asking him to bring his real self to us, so we can bring all of ourself to him as well.
So I can't go to God with my fake facade self.
You could, but it's not going to get you anywhere. It's not going to.
It's not a real relationship.
Build that real relationship. It's not going to touch you in the same ways that it could, and heal you in the same ways that it could if you were bringing all of your brokenness to him and inviting him into that place. So
I started doing that.
Good for you.
And then it changed things.
It does. I mean, Psalm 139:23 says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me, and know my anxieties." Just it's okay. Just bring them out there.
He knows them anyway. Like that's the comedy of it. He's God. He's omniscient. He knows all of this, and we're sitting here trying to hide from him what he already knows.
Right.
So why not be real with him, like in creating a healthy, real relationship? You have to be yourself. You have to be real about it. And in my case, there was a lot of brokenness and darkness and pain in that reality.
Yeah.
But he was willing to meet me there.
He's willing to meet all of us there, wherever we're at.
I
guess I'm excited about that.
Well, he says in John 14:21, "He who has my commandments and keeps them, it's he who loves me, and he who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will love him and manifest myself to him." So there's a place where I get to go to him and be real with him and actually start obeying him, start doing what he says, start recognizing who he is in an active way, not just a passive, oh, I can't help anything.
Right.
And so what does that mean about like spending time? Like, how did you and I get to know each other?
Oh, well, I think God put us in a very tight space. I think it was a car for at least 12 hours over 2 days.
Traveling to a conference where we talked to stay awake driving, where we were 4 of us in one small hotel room, 4 of us in a truck with all of our stuff.
Who barely knew each other.
Yeah, but we started.
That's a great way to build that relationship really strong, really early on.
Spend quality time and do it without distraction. And the funny thing is, we prioritize that with somebody we want to get to know in a dating relationship or in a friendship. But when do we stop and actually prioritize time with God that way?
I try to do it every day, but I haven't always been that way, that's for sure. I definitely needed some time and practice and intentionality to spend the time with him.
But did it feel real and natural, and you just want to spend hours with God just as an instinctive thing?
Well, when I was in a really hurting, terrible, hopeless place, it was out of desperation. That was the only way I could survive. But then, you know, you go through periods where, oh, but I'm on top of the world and everything's great, so I don't need God. Oh, yeah, I do need God. I'm going down again. I mean, it's sometimes I'm very intentional about it, and then sometimes life gets in the way, and I start to get distracted, and I have to come back to it. But I can always sense the difference when I'm making that time to spend quality time with him and to bring my brokenness to him, even if I'm just sitting there, because you know sometimes we're just listening. Or sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes I'm just complaining and just kind of shooting all of my complaints out. Yeah. And it's neither of those things brings me the quality of relationship that I'm looking for. When I bring him the brokenness and I allow him to speak into that and have an honest conversation like I have with you. If I just complained at you all day long, you'd be like, I don't want to spend time with her anymore.
No, sometimes it's about that real relationship, quality time, right? Not just complaining time or prayer time, as in I'm asking God for things, right? But gimme. Yeah, and he says in James 4:8, draw near to God and he will draw near to you. When I'm intentional about him, he's very, very intentional about me, and he is always there, always available, always with me. Nothing can separate me from his love. But there are times where I'm kind of in tune and looking to him. I'm focused. I am actually paying attention, as opposed to the child that's running around in circles and the parent's right there, but the child's not giving him any attention. Right. I get the choice of taking my focus and putting it on him. And that changes things. And do we have a...
We have a coaching tool.
That thing, yeah.
That's what you're looking for, right? If you'd like to explore this topic a little bit more in depth and how it applies to your life, then visit our website, bloomtodaytv.com. You can download a coaching tool, which is just a couple pages, worksheets that has the lesson we've talked about today, but also some questions and exercises to help you take this one step further. And I'm excited because
Change TV. This is where we talk about it, right?
yes,
Okay.
we have a very special guest today who also has a show on WHTN
Yes.
as well, CTN, who is our neighbor here in the studio, so to speak.
Which is so awesome.
And something different. We have someone who's a Christian rapper.
I am so excited about this.
I can't wait. David Manning, would you come join us in
Woo!
the kitchen, please?
Can you give him a hand, Jenny? Do you mind?
Yes.
David, here's your hand for today.
Wow, do I get to keep this or?
It's
we
a
just-
loan.
Oh, okay, I'll keep it for the show. I'll give it. All right, I don't know.
Thanks for coming
That's a
over.
first. That is definitely a first. Well, I'm glad to be here. Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, we're thrilled that you're here
Yeah.
and getting a chance to share a little bit about your personal journey when it comes to what we've been talking about today and having a real
Yeah.
relationship with God instead of just
I made up.
that religious
Right,
fake
right.
whatever thing.
Well, I've had both. So it's been crazy.
So tell us where you came from, your history, your childhood.
Well, I was born. Y'all know Mardi Gras, right? I was actually
Yeah.
born at Mardi Gras on Fat Tuesday.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Yeah, my family was in the carnival business.
Okay.
So like I didn't live down there, but like my family was down there working. And my dad was a bookie and he was in the carnival business. My mom, her family had been in the carnival business for 5 generations. So that's like that's all she knew, you know. And I was born and my family went down to Mardi Gras every year. My dad had gambling down there and he had a carnival up. And we didn't have insurance, so like I was born in Mississippi, like across the line.
Okay.
So I was born over there, and I don't know, man. You know, I was born in Mississippi, and it was crazy. You know, I didn't like. I traveled, you know, for most of my life. Like my dad, he actually grew up normal, I guess, or whatever normal is, you know.
Yeah.
And like my mom, that's all she ever knew was like traveling,
Right.
and being in the carnival. And but like my dad, he was from Nashville, so when we went to school, he's like, yeah, I want him to. You know, he had a sense of what normal was. My mom, she probably didn't. You know, she just thought, yeah, we'll just keep living like this. But my dad was like, no, I want him to go to school. You know,
Settle down,
yeah,
stay
so,
stable
well,
in
he
one
didn't.
place.
He sent my, you know, like he came here and he would be here, but he'd be out on the road, and so he was there. My dad was actually a good dad, but he was just like never there. But my dad was just in the streets. You know, he was like Tennessee had no gambling up until like I don't know, 10, 15 years ago.
Okay.
So he had a lot of legal gambling going on. Like I didn't know gambling was illegal because like my
we
dad
were
was in that
kids.
world, you know. Like so I found out, and that's really why my dad moved out of Tennessee when they legalized gambling. He actually went to New York, and so it was like kind of like a lot going on
Okay.
in my life. You know, a lot of things is like that. Like me and my sister, I got a sister who's 11 months older than me. Like we'd make up like every year, like what our dad did. Like, what do your dad? Like, oh, he's a truck driver this year. Like, what do you want him to be this year? It was just because like you're a kid in school and you're trying to explain to your the teacher, like, what does your dad do? Like, well, they're in the carnival business, but he also does gambling. And like, what do you mean there's no gambling? You can't. So we just make stuff up, you know?
So
like,
this kind of illegal lifestyle
Yeah.
is normalized to you.
yeah,
at that point.
I didn't even know. I really didn't. I mean, I knew that, like, don't tell people, but, like, I didn't know why, really. You know, it's like,
Right.
because, like, my dad took me everywhere. Like, he went into a club, I went into a club. He went to pick up
wow.
money, I went to pick up money. You know, it's just like, I'd be in the passenger seat, like, yeah, we got 13,200. He's like, cool, put it in the glove box. All right. You know, that's just, like, the life
Yeah.
that I became accustomed to, you know, which my dad, and it's crazy because it's like my dad was a good dad in the sense that he loved me and, you know, but he just exposed, you know, I guess it was
Right.
twisted in my mind, you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Because
Right.
it was like he just took me everywhere and I seen everything. Then when he went to New York, you know, it's like he was like mobbed up with the mob. You know, you don't do stuff like that in New York without being connected, you know?
Connected.
So I just seen a lot of stuff, you know, when I was a kid and I didn't
Yeah.
even know it wasn't normal, you know, like, and
So that became your lifestyle.
yeah, I mean, well, because I was so young, you know,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
and then I was about 13 years old. My dad, he moved away, and that's when my life just like shifted because like I really love my dad. I love being around my dad. I love hanging out with my dad, and which was crazy because my mom, she was like a stay-at-home mom. Everybody thought she was like the greatest mom in the world, but behind the scenes, man, my life like was hell when my dad left. You know, like my mom always mistreated me. Like I had a brother and sister, and I mean, she was mistreated everybody, but she really mistreated me, like physically abused me. You know, my dad would only let so much of it go on when he was there, you know.
Right.
But when he
But
left,
when he left, I mean, there was nights, you know, I remember, you know, I would be asleep. I would hear him on the phone arguing, and the next thing, you know, I know she'd wake me up, get out of my house. I'm like, man, it's January, you know, like, so I don't, you know, get out of my, and I, you know, like, it's like, that became so much bitterness. I started, you know, when you're 13 years old and your mom's putting you out in a neighborhood, it's, you know, you're in a neighborhood, well, who's out at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning? You know, so I started hanging out with guys 17, 18, 19, 20.
Yeah.
You know, which if my dad was there, he wouldn't have put up with that.
Right.
But he wasn't there. So it's like, you know, and I'd already seen so much stuff around my dad. So I was like, I was drawn to that type of lifestyle. I couldn't unsee that
comfortable.
stuff, you know? And I'd go to school and, you know, like teacher be like, you know, wake up, you're not going to be anything. I'm like, man, like I counted more money last month than you probably made this month, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's like I couldn't be a kid. It almost like stole my childhood from me.
Right.
You know, and it was crazy.
So where did God come into this story?
What's really crazy is like my mom, she never went to church, you know, but my dad would always like talk to me about God, like because like my dad he'd be in New York, so I'd ride up there with him, like long car rides. Well, he'd always talk to me like an adult, you know, like no matter how old I was, you know, like we'd just be, you want to go to the racetrack? Yeah, let's go to the race. You know, it's like I was never a kid with him, you know, but he would always talk to me about God, which was crazy, you know, like because to the world my dad was, you know, one way, but to me, he would, you know, like, son, you need to pray, you need to do these things, which he never went, you know, he would take me to church, but it was like, we would go to church and then we'd go to like an illegal gambling place, you know what I'm saying? Or
a little confusing.
Right, we would go to church and he'd be like smoking a joint in the church parking lot, you know, and it would just be like, I just didn't know, you know, and it's like, but he planted a lot of seeds in me that I really didn't know. He was just, it was kind of, because I think he was really against like church.
Right.
You know, because like he was like, you know, I was in the street, he was in the streets, and he's like, it just seemed like a hustle to him. But he really like, I would always see my dad read his Bible, and I would see my dad talk to me about God, and my mom, she was like, never, like, now I'm talking about never ever go to church. You know? And but to the world, she was the one like outwardly that looked like, oh, she's the great mom, because I played sports, I was doing all that stuff.
So appearances are never as they seem.
And that's what my mom really cared about. Like my mom really cared about appearances. Like my dad, he could care less. Like he was like, I don't care what these people think.
But in your life, with your personal relationship, so was it was obviously distant at first as a child, and then did you go
I lived with my mom, and I'm gonna tell y'all what really it's crazy because I wanted the acceptance of my mom the most, even though she was the one who rejected me the most. You know, it's like and my mom, she never really she kind of mocked God a little bit to me, you know what I'm saying? Which now things have changed in her life, you know. When people get older, they change. But, you know, as a kid...
you found God despite...
Well, what's crazy is a guy witnessed to me when I was in high school. And this was a guy who was like in the streets, and God changed him. So he started witnessing to me. And this girl, this is what really changed me. This girl was like, don't tell him about God. He's crazy. He don't want to hear about God. And I was like, what? So I cussed this girl out. I was like, what do you mean? I don't know about God. You don't know me. How could you say it? But I remember that never left. I was like, why would that girl think that I don't know God? You know, like it really bothered me. You know, like, I mean, and it really like, I could never shake it. You know, and I was still getting in trouble. I was in and out of juvenile, but I remember that always stuck with me. And I remember one day I was actually in juvenile, and I read the scripture. It's in John 4, where it says, if you knew who I was, you would ask for me for living water. And you'd never thirst again. And, you know, that really spoke to me when I was in there. When I got back out, I was like, you know, back to life, you know. And,
back to the same old culture, right?
But I got saved. I actually got born again when I was in high school. And it was the timing. God is such on time God, because my mom and dad had been separated from like 13 on, but when I was 17 they officially got divorced. And so I'm thinking, like, I didn't, you know, I could care less. Like, we was in court. Me and my brother actually got in a fist fight in the hallway, and all this stuff. So then they bring us in there, and my mom told the judge, she said, I don't want custody of him, talking about me, but she wanted custody of my brother and my sister. And like I'm thinking we're just going there for them to get divorced. I didn't even know like it had anything to do with me. I thought my life was going to continue as normal. And then we left there, my mom was like, all right, cool, go home and get your stuff. You can't live with me anymore. And like it did something to me. Like I had so much bitterness. So my dad was like, come move with me. And I had just got born again. And I was like, no, I don't want to move up there with you, because I know if I go up there, it was God was like the timing of God saving me. And so my dad was like, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm just going to move out. I was still in high school. And he was like, where are you going to move to? I was like, I don't know. And I was like, I got a friend who'll let me live with him. My dad was like, all right, cool. You know, if you want to move out, you know? And which was crazy, you know?
Right, but this is where the passion for reaching people through your TV show, through your music, reaching them where they're at in the streets, in the rejection, in the brokenness comes because you walk that.
The very thing that I thought was the most devastating. I mean, I never had felt rejection like that. Like my mom, I was like, how could she put me out? Because like me and my mom's relationship was crazy. Like she would be abusing me one day, and the next day, like she's trying to be my best friend. Then like 30 minutes later, she's screaming at me, you know, like hitting me, you know, putting me out. You know, I'd go live with my grandfather, and then it's like, oh, I'm sorry. You know, it was crazy, you know. And so then at 17, I moved out. And I was so bitter. I didn't talk to nobody. I just moved out. But that was the time that I really pressed into God, because there was a guy who was a youth pastor. He's like, yeah, you can come live with me. Which he was actually, God had changed him. He'd been through like craziness.
Right.
And, you know, like he'd always apologize. I'm sorry, you know, our house is crazy. I'm like, dude, this is wonderful. You know, like I don't even know what crazy, you don't know what crazy is, dude.
Right.
And,
Comparatively,
right.
everything's
And, but it was a time
relative.
where I really had to learn to trust God.
Yeah.
And I lived there about 6 months, and I just saved my money, and I actually got an apartment probably in like the worst neighborhood in the city. My rent was like $200. Like that probably tells you
Oh,
how
my
bad
gosh.
my neighborhood was. But
Wow.
I had like no furniture, nothing. I just sat in there and I just got close to God. And
that shows that closeness, the reality of that relationship shows on your TV show. Like it shows in your music. And I hate to interrupt, but I really want to hear just a little bit of your rap.
Yes, I do rap music, and it's really a tool to reach people. And I'm gonna give y'all a verse. I actually just wrote this verse.
Yay.
It's off our new album. It says, yeah, I've been alone and I feel pain myself. And I got problems of my own, but I blame myself. At times my conscience been scarred trying to please myself. Yeah, I made a little money, but the same I felt. So I tried to catch the wind, but it couldn't be caught. They told me love was for sale, but it couldn't be bought. So I'm looking at the game, like when we gonna learn? Keep on playing with the flames, you're gonna keep on getting burned. This for every single child that has ever been neglected, every little girl that has ever been molested. Know you feel alone and cold and unprotected. Wanna tell your parents, but your home life is hectic. Wow. Now where do we go from here? Because when he told you that he loved you, he looked so sincere, but now you're 9 months pregnant and he's nowhere near. God is still present, his love is still real.
Wow.
Awesome. That's awesome. I'm so.
Yay.
I wish I had that kind of music growing up in high school.
Well, that's what we're trying to make it. Because, you know, like rap music has such a negative influence on my life.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, I loved hip hop music. I love rap music. And unfortunately, a lot of the hip hop music is so negative. You know, and it glorifies street life, which I was already attracted to.
Right.
You know, it glorifies drug use.
Right.
Everything that's negative is in hip hop music.
So you're
not
building the opposite. The opposite.
Yeah.
And Change TV, I really want people to go look you up.
Yeah, we have a
Yeah,
TV show,
and-
Change TV.
And your
Change TV.
and this the name of your CD is Change Music.
Yeah, the
correct?
music is Change Music, the TV show is Change TV, because that's what we're about. God has changed us so
changing.
much. And
Change Music with a K.
yes.
You gotta spell it right.
And you know what? People think we did that for some artsy reason. It was really because the .com for the C was taken. So he was like, you know what? We're changing this to the K. He was like, wow, that's so inspirational. That's so artsy. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah. The .com wasn't available, so we
You
got
heard
the,
it here first on Bloom
right.
Today.
Yeah. So there's no real cool reason why other than that.
So, but that makes you our ex-victim.
Ex-victim of the week.
Nice.
We're
I
we're
get-
so thankful.
That means we
you're
are going to
here.
owe you a shirt, right?
I will
That
come.
says
I definitely want my
ex-victim
shirt.
like that.
I definitely.
But first,
I get this too?
you get the tattoo, so
Okay.
you can like pretend to have one.
Gotcha.
Like I got
I'm
the
gonna put it
real
right
one.
here on my-
Yeah, put it on your face.
On my face.
And the
I killed
tissues
a whole
and
flower.
the tissues and chocolates are because
Nice.
that's our theme. Because we're
Okay.
emotional, we talk about
Right.
emotional stuff.
Yeah.
We get into that, and the coffee mug to remind you that while you're rapping, you know, that's your blooming.
Gotcha, yeah.
Everybody needs coffee.
You
Every
gotta have
rapper.
coffee, yes. I probably need some coffee right now, but I didn't have a mug, so
There you go.
I didn't know
Well,
what to do.
We're sitting here in the kitchen, and you didn't ask
I
us
know.
for coffee. Like
I know.
seriously.
Sorry, I should have done that. But I didn't have a mug. I didn't know. I had this one, but I didn't know if it was mine or what. So
Yeah, no. Well, now you got your
Got my own personal
so when you go home, you can put your own
I got
coffee
you,
in your
I
own
got
mug
you.
because evidently we're not good at
right,
pouring
y'all,
coffee.
you know what? I shouldn't have to ask in your kitchen. I'm not saying y'all are just not good hosts. or
We're gonna
anything,
have
but-
to. We're gonna have to cut this off and actually tell you that we thank you for using
Yeah.
your fertilizer in your past, like we do, so that we can bloom today.
A free PDF copy of the Bloom in the Dark book and a full list of Bloom Today's coaching tools can be found on bloomtodaytv.com. Then visit Bloom Today's Facebook group for deeper conversation.